Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Welcome to the Carver Conservation Commission meeting for January 3rd, 2024. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year. Same to you.
We'll jump right into our agenda. Our first order of business under discussions in business is a certificate of compliance extension request for DEP file SE 126619. And
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
that's a typo on that. It should be order of conditions extension.
Okay.
That's the state number's fine and all that.
okay,
It's just for an order.
okay, so it's an OOC.
Correct.
And is that going to be the case for the 621?
Second one, yep, just the second one. The third
Okay.
one is an actual COC.
All right, so we have an order of condition extension request. Yeah, you don't give an extension on a COC.
No.
For DEP 126619, which looks like it's the solar project at 40 Fuller Street in Carver. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Gregory Sampson with Sullivan & Worcester. I'm the attorney for the applicant. We're here to request a 3-year extension to the order of conditions. As I think this commission is aware, this project, as well as the one we'll talk about next, and many other solar projects in the area have been held up with the interconnection process with Eversource. The projects in this area were all brought into what's being called a group study, where typically each project is looked at as how it's going to interconnect with the grid individually, and the utility says, well, we need to do X, Y, and Z. Because of the number of projects in this area, they pooled them, and they had to do this group study that actually elevated itself to a DPU approval process and has taken several years to just get the results of the group study. And then the DPU is to approve the upgrade schedule by the utility. So all of these things have just taken more time than we'd like. We have been following along with the DPU process, submitting responses to comments. We're ready as soon as we get the upgrade schedule from the DPU to plan out our construction schedule, because the goal is to ultimately build this project and time it so that we're built when the utilities infrastructure is ready to accept the power. It's hard to do it with much more leeway than that. So that's really the timing element. I can get into more details on the group study if there's questions. It's really is a process that we don't have very much control over. We're nudging, we're pushing. As soon as the study's approved, we can sign the interconnection agreement and really start to move. So we are very interested in keeping these projects active and pursuing them when construction allows for it. We think the 3-year extension will work out well for us to be able to build the project and meet all the requirements, the order conditions, if the timing goes as we expect right now.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the current order of conditions expires May 5th, 2024, so they do meet the 30-day requirement, to ask for the extension. So they're asking for 3 years, so the new extended expiration date will be May 05, 2027, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And we wanted to provide extra notice because I know sometimes everyone comes in a little like last minute for these extension requests.
I appreciate that. For
yeah,
the
we just want
paperwork.
Yes. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions of the gentleman?
No, I don't.
No. I have two.
Sure.
You said that this is a group. Are there other solar arrays that are not part of your project that are in this group?
There are, yes.
Are there others in Carver?
To be honest, yes. Actually, I think I was here for another project over the summer.
Okay. For the same reasons, kind of?
Same reasons. That was a Borrego Energy, now New Leaf Energy project.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I'm just, if I'm not, I may be mistaken if I, because I'm also got all the approvals extended from the planning board, so I can't remember if it was before this commission or the planning board for the
Okay.
same approvals, but.
No, the reason I asked really is if there are more in Carver, that we should expect more of these extensions, if everybody else is in this same boat with.
There are a lot of people in this boat. There's at least 14 projects in this area, and I would guess at least 5 in
Okay.
Carver.
All right, and my second question is how much, if any, work has been done?
There has not been any work
Nothing.
done, correct.
I have a question.
Yes.
What are they studying?
So the,
I know it's probably very complicated, but just high
no,
level.
high level is I can explain this, and
Okay, good.
I'm good at high level on this stuff. So when a projects connect, generally speaking, we're getting all of our energy from the few sources, major sources. Now with the solar projects, we're putting energy in different spots, and so it's running into the grid in different areas. And the grid isn't not necessarily ready to accept and run the power in different directions. So they have these, I think in some areas it's required new substations, some areas just utility upgrades of transformers, things like that. So it can be anything. As when they saw the amount of projects in this area, they said, we need to study them as a whole and try and figure out what the best way
Strategy
to,
is.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thanks.
All right, anyone else? No? All right, I'll entertain a motion to grant the extension request for the order of conditions for DEP file SE 126619.
So moved. I'll second.
All right, it's been moved by Dave, seconded by Carl. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. That's approved 5-0. And our next order of business is an identical extension for order of conditions on a different parcel, this being the 204 Plymouth Street project. It's the same situation. Anyone have any questions on this particular one? All right, then I'll go right to asking for a motion to approve the extension.
So moved.
Second? All right, moved by Dave, seconded by Carl once again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's approved 5-0. And you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Appreciate your time.
Oh, just for the record, that's the same situation. This order expires May 5 this year, 2024, and they ask for 3 years, which it'll expire May 5, 2027.
Okay. Next up is a certificate of compliance for DEP file SE 126666, and that is 213 Meadow Street. Which-
Sign in, please.
All right, this is the farm stand on Meadow Street that we went out and looked at a while ago and had some had order conditions of how this gentleman should proceed with it. And we had a site visit this morning and went out and looked at it. It was Ann and Carl and Gary and myself, and it looked good. So, sir, if you'd like to add anything, say anything?
Yes, sorry they didn't give me an extra copy of the plans, but I can just comment and say that we were, very happy with the results of the work that was done. We felt that, the work that was done disturbed the area next to our bogs as little as possible. We did have one change to the plan, which was to change the fill to extend out to the street, and we felt that that was the right thing to do in order to make sure that vehicles wouldn't dig up the land and then cause ruts and have water flow to different parts, so that it would just proceed into the bog. Other than that, the only other change I think that was made was in terms of the ramp, which we had approved with the building inspector to just make sure it goes across the building. We had that leveled, and the building inspector came out and checked that, so that was all good.
All right, as I said, I mean, it looked good to me. Everything seemed to be fine. The erosion controls were still in place, which was great. It's a good thick gravel base where you have cars parking, which is helpful. That should keep any mud or dirt away.
I got a question for you. On the ramp going up to the front doors, what's that material?
So it's a stone dust, but it's like, it was a different like type of stone dust. There was actually two types of stone dust mixed together.
Okay.
That compounded.
Looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, it came out looking pretty nice. I think it's a little bit soft, with the elements. It could, because it was put down pretty late in the fall, so we're hoping it hardens up, but we might have to apply something in the spring. And so that actually led me to a question, which was in regards to that, do we need to, if we need to do repairs to that ramp, do we need to take any action?
He's okay, right?
I think so.
I think so too, because it's maintenance on the existing.
Yeah, it would be maintenance. If you're going to add some kind of a chemical binder, though, we should probably just let Gary know and just make sure.
Okay.
Just make sure that it's safe around agricultural projects. So whatever you need to use, make sure that we have something for our records that says that this is acceptable for use in agricultural situations.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So I will accept a motion to grant the certificate of compliance for DEP 126666.
So moved. Second.
All right. Let me switch it up. Carl made the motion, Dave made the second. Does anyone else have any questions first? No? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's approved 5-0. Thank you very much, it looks great.
Yeah,
Good luck with
nice
it.
job.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with the business.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So that's that.
That's a letter from the to all the commissioners have it.
Okay, next up, 17 Wareham Street. Continued discussion from previous meeting.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR. Along with me this evening is Chris Masalewski for his property at 17 Wareham Street. We did come to the commission with a restoration proposal and presented the fencing and goat shed located at the eastern portion of the property close to Wareham Street. The commission had asked that we revisit the proposal that we had submitted and relocate the fencing outside the 65-foot buffer zone. We discussed that, and we have presented a plan to you that relocates the fencing so that it's landward of the 65-foot buffer zone and then follows along the existing bog access road. The existing shed that's within the bog access road is just inside the 65-foot buffer zone. It's not an easy task for us to relocate that beyond the 65-foot, and we're asking if we could keep it as is. Because that area is part of the bog access road, it doesn't really provide much of a benefit to move it 5 to 7 feet landward because it's still within an open, cleared bog access road. So what we've come back with the commission is, as you had asked, to relocate the fencing outside 65. We're asking to keep the shed as is if we can do that. And it's up to discussion with the commission, but I think we've come back to what you had asked for, to relocate the fencing and maintain that area beyond 65. The rest of the property is, as you know, cranberry bogs and land and agricultural use.
All right, we have a couple of other communications from a resident, I believe, either an abutter or a resident that is close to you and who you're familiar with. And he's indicating that there is a second group of goats to the west in an old pump house on the river's edge. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. The commission had asked and submitted an enforcement order and specifically identified the eastern portion of the site to be addressed, because that area isn't necessarily land and agricultural use. It does get to operational bogs as you move into the site. We've come forward to the commission with what what the enforcement order had asked to be addressed, which is that eastern portion of the site. I didn't, we just received this tonight from other concerns, but as I said, we're addressing what was requested of the property owner through the enforcement order.
All right, I understand that, and I don't have a quarrel with that. What bothers me is that we've been watching this property from back when the logs were being done through now, and I would feel as though, as a measure of good faith, that when we talked to you about this, you would have notified us about the other group of goats. Because now we're probably going to have to do a second enforcement order and do this all over again. But we'll have to see. Now we have to go and do another site visit. We have to go and look where the other goats are, what they've done to the vegetation there. So, that notwithstanding, we'll just leave those second group of goats alone for now, but know that they're on our radar now and we're going to have to do something about it. We're at least going to have to look and make sure. What I would also like to see on this drawing, I see what you've done, and I see where the 65-foot buffer and the 100-foot is, but it sort of disappears halfway between where the old bog was, and so does the fencing. What I would like to see on this drawing is the complete enclosure of where the goats are going to be, and because it doesn't show me here if that fencing enclosure moves closer to the river on the north side of where that bog was. So I would like to have the 65 and 100-foot delineations on the entire drawing, and also the completed loop of the fence showing the complete enclosure of where the goats are now on this particular one. That's what I would like to see.
We're here to work with the commission as we came back to relocate the fencing outside the 65-foot buffer, and I wasn't looking to, and Mr. Mazzalucci wasn't looking to argue with the commission about the rights of the property with land and agricultural use, because in this portion of the site, I don't know if there is an argument for that. So we located the fencing outside the 65-foot and addressed the enforcement order. We can provide additional detail as you're asking for, but you have to be cognizant that the rest of the property is land and agricultural use, the keeping of livestock, fencing, as you know, maintenance of land and agricultural use brings with it certain exemptions. So we can provide you a little bit more detail on that, but the rest of the site isn't the same as this portion of the site.
What is, in your opinion or your knowledge of the laws regarding exemptions?
All right. From what I understand and discussing it with DEP and their interpretation also, if the forested area was already land and agricultural use, there'd be an argument on fence placement because it just goes right into the, pretty much almost into the brook, okay? But it doesn't, it's forested, so that is not considered by both myself and DEP to be land and agricultural use. So
Okay.
he's tearing up, basically, in a sense, from agricultural virgin land, and that's not an exemption.
No, and I agree with you, Gary. That's why we've relocated the fencing outside the 65-foot in this zone that you've asked for in the enforcement order. When we start moving further westerly into the site, it's a different scenario. We have land in agricultural use that's part of the operation of cranberry bogs. So we can provide you more detail on that. It hasn't been requested by the commission. The area was specifically shaded that the commission requested that this area specifically be addressed for the fencing within the woodland area. And I agree with you, Gary, that we would have a hard argument to come back to the commission and say, we're going to keep fencing as is because it's currently land in agricultural use. I think the rest of the site, though, does enjoy the benefits of land and agricultural use.
Well, one thing is, though, this, property's not, relatively speaking, that large. You're trying to shove, 5 pounds into a 2-pound sack with, a lot of use on the property. You can only do so much.
I think why don't we do, if I ask the commission, we've addressed what the enforcement order has, that the commission has requested.
Yes.
You've gotten a letter from, I don't know if he's an abutter or not.
I think he's on the other side of the river.
I don't know if he's with, we'll look into it, but I guess before we take this and then, string him up the flagpole, I'll get you more information about what we have here.
Okay.
And,
All right,
and then we
the
can
letter was,
proceed.
the only thing that I quoted from the letter was the second group of goats, and that's the only thing that came out of this letter, as far as I'm concerned, that I wanted more information on. This plan in and of itself, just looking at it, for me, it does not give me enough information about the entire enclosure. And maybe that's on us for not asking us, or maybe the enforcement order wasn't big enough. We saw what we could see from the road and the driveway, and that's what caught our eye in the first spot. We did not venture further back onto the property to see where the enclosure went, along the north and west sides of the former bog. So, that it kind of, if you're trying to create this area, and yes, you did put the fencing along the 65 in the enforcement area, but as soon as that so-called enforcement area ends, you went right within the 65 feet again with your fencing. I believe that part of the enforcement, part of the order of conditions, when we granted permission for this bog to sort of be decommissioned and the driveway to be put in when the logging operation was going on, was that the former bog road that went around that bog was to be planted with trees. And now it's part of a goat habitat, and the goats are going to eat the trees. So I don't know what steps we can take now.
Well, right now, the goats are still altering, the terrain. So, from August on, they've been doing that. So, he didn't come in for relief or ask permission to, alter the land in there. So, you're within your right to pretty much right now, even in the 100-foot buffer, because he's got an enforcement order and he didn't come in right away. You can have him tear the whole fence out if you wish, or portions thereof. That's your purview.
Well, okay.
All right.
We've been on this as a discussion level.
Correct.
All the way through this process.
Right. But you asked, and
Right.
the only big thing right now really is the fence and the shed, for physical features. Because the goats are going to come out, you follow me?
Right.
If you move the fence. So that's really not an issue. It's just, the physical features of the fence and the shed, what you want to do with those. And they're asking, if I'm correct, right, to pull the fence back to the 65-foot buffer line.
But it only goes to the 65-foot based on this, along the southern part of what was, you know, what was woods or is woods. And then it cuts inside the 65-foot. It looks like it probably goes, it goes to about 40 feet, even maybe 35.
Right.
Inside the 65 along the berm that is on the outside of the former bog road, which our earlier order of conditions required them to plant trees on.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is too, just so are you willing to consider them putting the fence right along 65 feet wherever, you know, pulling back out of whether it's 30 feet, you know, off to that side you were talking about, or do you just want them out of the whole buffer? I guess that's what has to be decided. Do you want them to let it do a partial buffer, you know, from 100 to 65, or just nothing in the buffer? I guess that's what has to be decided.
I really want to see where the 65 continues to go towards
Okay.
the west. I understand that moving the shed is probably problematic, so I don't really, I personally, I'm not talking for the commission, I don't have a problem in having that fence go around the current location of that building,
Right.
that shed.
Sure.
But then I think it should rejoin the 65-foot
Right.
on the north side.
Right.
And then, you know, following wherever the 65-foot leads, keeping that fence on the 65-foot buffer all the way around until it can make a loop and come back and
Okay,
continue.
so you're willing, as long as they stay out of the 65-foot buffer, to let them encroach part of the buffer?
Encroach part of it where the shed is, so they don't
Okay.
have to move the shed.
Does that make sense to you?
Well, we need to discuss and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's where we are. You know, we have an area of enforcement. We came to the commission, and we're back to the commission. Now we're into a different scenario than what we were what we understood. As I said before, when we move out of this area, there's areas of the site that are land and agricultural use, and there's certain things that are allowed, you know, in accordance with the regulations. We haven't analyzed what you're asking.
Okay.
Outside what we have here. So
All right.
what I would ask the commission is if we could, so we don't have moving goalposts every time we come back, if we can agree that this is suitable in this portion that we've addressed, in this eastern portion that's subject to the enforcement order, and then we'll coordinate and get more detail on the rest of the land and agricultural use and fencing and the maintenance of the goat shed and the rest, you know, around the bog access road.
Because,
But we don't have that, I don't have that data to be able to, I don't want to
That's
throw
fair.
that
No,
up and then.
that everyone understands
Right.
that, you know, the chairman just wants you to stay out of the 65-foot buffer.
Yes, but and we're doing that in this area that's not land and agricultural use. And the rest of the area, we need to.
Well, yes, but see, that's the state exemption. Our 65-foot is alteration of land now.
No, I know, but you're talking about, that's like telling a cranberry bog owner that we're gonna put you can't put a fence up and you have to be 65 feet off the wetland and your bog's already in the wetland and now you're putting a fence across the middle of the
They come in and
bog.
discuss it with us, and if worse comes to worse, they do an NOI and ask for a variance.
No, and that's what I'm saying, we need to analyze that and come back. I don't wanna just tell you we're gonna
Right. But
throw.
I'm saying you'd have to come up with a variance, alternative if you want to stay in the buffer, agricultural or not.
And I can coordinate with you further on that. We're kind of caught off guard on that. 'Cause I thought we were.
Yeah, we're just
Yep.
explaining,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, don't worry about it. Because don't forget, cranberries don't chew up vegetation.
And it's not the goat scenario that I'm talking about. What we're talking about are the rights of the property of land and agricultural use.
Right.
Town of Carver is a right to farm
Correct.
community. So therefore, the 10.04 agriculture is the exemptions that come along with agriculture and cranberries are part of your bylaw as well, because you can't have a right to farm community that's more restrictive than what the state allows. So the 10.04 agricultural exemptions run with the rest of the property.
Right.
So let me do a little bit more analysis and get you some more data on that.
Right.
Instead of just, telling him that we're gonna put 65 feet across his bog.
Just remember
Okay.
too, goats aren't cranberries.
Goats are livestock, and
I
that's part of
understand that,
agriculture,
but
right?
you're also in riverfront.
And that's again,
I
there's,
know, but
there's,
still,
right,
there's caveats, okay?
there's a 100-foot riverfront for
I know.
agriculture, and that's maintenance of land and agriculture use. And we don't, these are things I can coordinate with you further, and we can get you more detail. We
Brad,
just
that's
don't have
all
that
I'm
now.
asking, enough, okay?
Yep.
I get it, just
No, I got you, right.
get it together, that's
Sure,
all.
yeah, that's
And
fine.
then get back to us, that's all. You know, I'm not trying to argue with you or anything.
I don't want to argue, I don't want to argue with you either, and we're trying to work with the commission, and this
Right.
was the area that we
But, you
were
know,
asked to look at.
but this is beyond just asking, you know, for a permit or permission beforehand. You know, this is an enforcement order and, you know, we've been blown off for 3 or 4 months. So
Right.
you gotta
Yep.
keep that in your back pocket.
And I
too.
know, that's why we're here.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess to answer one of your questions, I would say that what you have done here to the east of the shed, from that little driveway cutout where the pickup truck is to Wareham Street, and that little area of fenced in where it runs along the 65-foot buffer and then runs along the driveway out to the road is fine, in my opinion. But we've got to, you know, the group has to look at that. And then I think the rest is up to further discussion. And, you know, I'm just wondering if at some point we're going to have to go to an NOI.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. They
Yeah.
may have to do a variance. That was my point.
That could be the only way to do this.
Well, I can tell you what I've done in the past, because an NOI would be a new activity. And what I've done in the past is to submit a request for determination of
Well,
applicability.
or it'd be an after-the-fact NOI.
Well, I'm just, as far as land and agricultural use, if we were proposing a new
You could try the RDA. I mean, that's up to you.
right, and then if you weren't in agreement or we weren't in agreement, it's an
Exactly.
appealable document. The notice of intent is more of a,
All right, that's fine.
a
That's fine.
different
I get
scenario,
that.
right?
That makes sense. All right. Questions from the board?
I have a couple questions.
Go right ahead, sir.
First of all, so the land that was destroyed by the goats, I'd like to see something happen to that if it doesn't come back in the springtime. Like some sort of restoration, because it was totally eaten up in there. I mean, I've driven by a couple times. And I think that area, I think we as a group should have some sort of deadline saying if this area hasn't come back within, I don't know what the
Midsummer.
midsummer.
You'll see shoots and
That there
leaves.
should be some sort of restoration effort done on that area that was eaten up by the goats, particularly this one area right here. It's all we can see though.
Right, well, you see
So-
from the road.
Right. And, I don't know. And so what's the deal too on, if you're within 100 feet of a river and you have livestock, is that not permitted under DEP rules or under, what's
I gotta look up, I don't have the exact verbiage memorized, I'd
Right.
have to look that up, but there are some caveats and exemptions, but I don't have them.
Right.
Right now, I'm more dealing with our 65-foot than with riverfront right now.
Right. And also, I think we need to put in a deadline too, when the fence is, when the goats are gonna be moved out, and when everything's gonna be changed, at least just this one area right here, at least for that, for now.
Well, I think
Yeah.
what we can do tonight is we can approve the eastern section of the relocation of the fence. It's going to be a small pen, you know, from the area to the east of where the shed is. You know, where the current
Right.
fence location gets pinched, that little pinch point. From that pinch point over to the east, along the driveway, along the 65-foot and out to Wareham Street. You know, we can say that that's okay, that doesn't allow a lot of room for the goats, but, and we could also allow access to the shed.
Right. Well, that was my point of the 5 pounds and the 2-pound sack, you know.
Right.
I mean, I get it, he wants to, but he doesn't have a lot of room,
Yes,
you know.
right. But, you know, I'm just, you know, he's got that whole former bog.
So is that former bog considered wetlands now? What's the deal on what a former bog is?
What do you think? Think that a wetland bog?
I think you had already as you mentioned, I don't have a copy of the order of conditions, but Chris has been through the commission before on this, and I thought that the commission, I believe it's an upland bog.
It was an upland bog, which we allowed
you-
him to store wood on for a little period of time. We allowed him to put the embankment, the driveway, so he could get equipment down there. And it was determined as an upland bog. But part of the order of conditions was to place trees, foliage, to replace things that had been taken away by stockpiling some of the logs, and also removing some of the understory that went down the embankment to the river on the northernmost point. So yes, it was an upland bog, which is why we allowed some of the activity that was being done to continue to be done. We asked that the wood that had previously been in the 100-foot in that southeast corner to be moved outside of the 200-foot riverfront, which it was, but it was not a wetland bog.
Okay.
Is your client harvesting the cranberries right now?
Yes.
You are? Okay, I was gonna say, geez, you could move some of your goat pen over there, but if you're harvesting your cranberries, then.
Well, this is, I mean, this whole area is where you see the former bog is not, that's not an active bog. So, I mean, there's,
I'm just trying to look for, an alternative place.
yes, and that's something that we can look at.
Okay.
But, I mean, is having livestock within 100 feet of a stream an issue? Health issue or anything like that?
That's what I'm worried about, the feces, because
Right.
I know no one's gonna go out there scooping up like people do with their dog, and I don't blame them.
Right.
They're goats, and they're all over the place. I don't, like I said before, I don't have everything down pat, I'd have to look it up.
So it looks like we need a lot of clarification.
Right, they
even on
do
this.
have exemptions and caveats and all that. I just don't have riverfront stuff right in front of me.
Okay.
All right.
So, Brad has to look into it, I have to look into it.
But before it gets any later, we do need to get those goats out of that wetlands
Well,
area.
that's up to you folks.
Yeah. I mean, that's a primary concern, I think, right now.
Well, I think at this point, we asked them to relocate the fence along that eastern portion to the 65-foot.
Right.
And then maybe make a small, temporary fence behind the shed, to the north side of the shed, so they can at least access the shed.
Till we figure this out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
How's that?
That's basically right,
Okay,
so ending the fence behind, wrapping it around the shed, and leaving that,
Yeah.
we're gonna get you more information for the rest of the property and
Yeah.
come back.
There you go, yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
that's-
think, in order to do that, though, I think we should put a deadline on when the goats should be out of there.
Well,
Well,
we're
the
not
goats are gonna
moving the,
stay.
What?
The goats will stay.
No,
in-
out of the wetlands.
Yeah, I think he means out of
Out of the
the
wetlands.
65.
Yeah, move the fence and
Yeah,
pull the
I
goats
think we
back.
need to
Well-
put a deadline on that somehow.
I agree to a certain extent. We are in the middle of winter.
Right now, but come March 1st, it's not very long, no, it's only 2
Well,
months.
you've got to have soft ground to put in fence posts. We can set a date for maybe March 31st.
Sure, it's up to you guys.
Yeah.
That's a reasonable date.
Yeah, that's 3 months, and that's probably before new growth really gets pushing through the
Yeah,
ground.
unless we have a super warm March, and then, I can, talk to them and just say, hey, we've got an early spring, see what you can do.
So Gary, you think March 31st is a good date? Plans to
Yeah,
come
sure
back?
it is.
Okay.
Around here, yeah.
All right, does anyone else have any questions, comments on this?
So just so I can summarize, what's happening here? What are we gonna do? What's?
All right, Brad is going to come back with more information, primarily giving us a look at where the 100-foot and 200-foot and 65-foot continues along the riverbed that flows across the north part of the property, and also continue the fence line so that it completes the enclosure, so we can see what they're proposing to do. from the shed to the west. In the interim, we're going to ask them to move the fence to the 65-foot line and then up to the northwest and then cut across behind the shed, so the shed is still within the enclosure, and have that fence moved by March 31st. And then we'll ask the gentleman to come back with more information at one of our future meetings to figure out what we're going to do next.
Makes sense.
And at some point, I would like to get clarification from you, Gary, on the agricultural uses
Yeah, I'll
and
look
exemptions,
into it.
particularly in regards to wildlife
Right.
and animals on a farm.
Right.
And at some point, we'd like to get permission to go and see this second group of goats and that enclosure as well, and see its proximity to the river. And even though I know that those are active bogs over there, I want to get clarification on what is and isn't allowed as far as animals are concerned within that.
48 hours notice ahead of time, okay? 72, what do you want?
Probably have to discuss that. Or
Well, it probably makes better, I mean, it would, I'm just thinking it out loud here in the sense that it would be probably more of a productive site visit if we were, had the information that we need to get to you.
Okay, that's
You know
fine.
what I mean? So that we can review it together on site instead of having to go back out.
All right, so
again.
you would then prepare something on that second
Yes, and then
enclosure
we.
as well. That's
and
fine.
then we.
That works.
Then we have something to discuss.
All right,
Okay,
when do you
that's
think
fine.
you'd have that second set of data to us?
I would say within a month.
Okay, so the second February meeting,
Okay,
how's that?
That would work.
That work?
Yep.
all right,
Okay,
great.
cool.
So what about the shed, though? Did that require a variance for that shed? Is that correct?
Well,
We're going to
We'll
allow it
get
now.
there.
We'll get there. We'll get there, okay. For now, we're going to allow.
We're going to allow the shed for now.
We're going
It
to
doesn't
allow
mean
the
we're
shed
gonna-
to
okay.
stay where it is.
Okay, got it. For now.
for now, yeah.
And we may.
We retain the right to change that mind. on that.
But will
Right.
that require, though, just so I know, will that require variance, though, if we allow the shed to stay there? Is that correct?
Possibly.
Possible.
Yeah, based on our current bylaw, and even with the old bylaw, because it's an impervious surface and it's a structure.
Right, because it's got a roof.
Yeah,
So
it's
we would
not
have to
allowed.
have a variance.
Would- Yeah. So, but for the interim, I'm not going to make them take
The
that.
shed for now.
I don't think we should take that away.
It's probably frozen into the ground right now anyway. We've had a couple cold nights.
I did include a variance request in the past submittal.
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. Good luck.
Good night. Onward. Okay. That's done. Okay, next up, webpage, bylaw update.
Okay, that's this little packet I gave everyone. All right, what we did was, since from spring's, warrant articles that were voted on specifically for us, they haven't been incorporated into the actual, full town bylaw. So what we did was, because I've had some attorneys when they come in talking to us, and also consultants such as Brad, we put in, where I have the arrow, we put in the changes, the wetland protection bylaw changes approved at April 2023 town meeting. So they're on the website, okay? And I printed them out, everyone has them, and all the changes on each one, each of the warrant articles is in bold, okay? So that way, if anyone wants to look it up, we have it until it gets written into the actual bylaw itself, okay?
All right, so I went and I saw our town clerk today, Kara, and I asked her about this. I asked her why the 2023 town bylaws haven't been posted on the website yet. There are still 2 articles, they're zoning bylaw articles, which need to be codified. And her thinking is not to have to do things twice, not to put everything up there and then wait until the other 2 are approved and then do it again, which makes sense. However, what we have, these came off of the conservation webpage.
Correct.
On the town.
That's
It's-
exactly, yeah.
It's also on the town clerk's webpage, or page on the Carver Town website. And what Kara said she is going to do now is, when you go to the homepage of the Carver website and you go to bylaws, the button for bylaws, she's going to have a message there linking, a link to the already approved bylaws across the board, leaving out the two that are still kind of floating out there. So anybody who goes through the normal routine of wanting to find out what our bylaws are and clicking on the bylaw button will see this link to the ones that are approved already and on the books. So that should clear
Yeah, that should clear everything.
everything up. So people don't have to search for
Right.
these bylaws. They're there.
Right, that's why I did this. It's temporary till it
Yes.
gets straightened out.
Yes, and then, there are just a couple of things I think that the planning board has to vote on in order to finance a couple of these these articles, and then that's the last thing that has to happen before the bylaws can be posted. And I think she said something about moving the bylaws to a different platform where they're going to be available almost immediately.
Yep,
And
I heard that too.
so, I mean, that's not gonna happen right now,
No.
but it'll make it easier moving forward.
Right.
So.
But at least we have something in place.
Yeah, so it's, right now, the current bylaws that were passed in the 2023 town meeting are listed on conservation, and they're also listed on the town clerk's page, and there will be a link to them on the bylaws page on the town website. So it's out there enough so that there can't be
So
any
we can't get
confusion.
any more transparent if people say we're hiding
Right,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, so that's that. Next up, we have a vacancy in the vice chairmanship since our esteemed colleague, Mr. Germain, has left us. So I will,
That would be Dan.
Dan.
Yeah.
oh, Dan, I'm
Dan was
sorry.
the most recent one.
Dan, right, and he was an esteemed colleague too. So, whatever.
I know, it's whatever, we all do it.
Yes, we do. So anyway, sorry, Dan. So anyway, I will, at this point, accept any nominations for the vice chair vacancy.
I'll nominate Dave Hall for the vice chair.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to nominate Dave Hall for the office of vice chair. Do we have any other nominations on the floor? Hearing none? All right, I'm going to do a voice vote on this. We have a motion on the floor to appoint David Hall as vice chair for the Carver Conservation Commission. Ann, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Curtis?
Yes.
Carl? Me? Yes? And
So
you abstain?
I abstain.
Yes.
So I figured.
So, congratulations, you're the
Thank you.
new vice chair.
See,
For,
I-
It seems like being vice chair is not a permanent thing. You leave pretty quickly.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, it seems to be a death now for us.
from last year, so.
okay, we'll get back to the minutes. Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Well, okay, I have one thing I'd like to bring up, Mr. Chairman, on items, that weren't seen beforehand. 0 Indian Street.
Okay.
Would you like me to send an email to the property owners to have them come in and discuss the situation out there, or how do you want to handle that?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
0 Indian Street is a bog where they're clearing the hillside behind it and on either side of it, and removing sand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they already, remember we all saw it
Yeah,
together?
we stopped it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all
Yeah,
saw
we all
it.
saw it.
So, So, yes, I think we should have them come in and talk about it. And you investigated, there is no earth removal permit? Is that
Yes,
correct?
and from what I understand, they're gonna go out, or representative from Earth Removal's gonna go out and physically go out and take a look at the site
Okay,
and, you know, make their own opinion.
okay.
But Save the Pine Barrens has gotten a hold of it, so they're calling the state and different agencies and the feds and,
Okay,
just so you know, so we gotta get on the ball on it.
okay, that's fine. Was this part of the siltation situation?
That's one of the items. There's 3 or 4 sites that DEP asked the property owners to put siltation on, and so far, everyone's been pretty good.
Okay.
This is one of them, yes.
What do
Okay,
you mean, they put up fences, I mean siltation fences?
They're using the wattles, the 12-inch.
Oh, they are using them there?
They are now.
they are now, but
Yeah.
there have been some instances of silt in flowing water.
So they're doing this as part of the bog operation, or we don't know exactly why?
Well, that's what we have to talk to them.
Yeah,
They're
that's-
taking a lot of dirt out
Right, right.
for a small bog. I don't know, if they own other bogs and are transporting the sand.
But we did see them taking trailer dumps off the property, so that's not stockpiling for that
When
bog.
we were there, so.
Yeah, so,
I mean, they can do that though, but they just,
Well,
that's what they have to tell us.
That's what they have to tell us,
Yeah.
and they have to, and I think they have to prove it to earth removal.
that they're using it for that specific bog?
No, that they're using it in an agricultural
I guess.
way. Now, I have to say, when I left our site visit today, I took Meadow Street up towards Center Carver, and there's a bog right at the intersection where the road goes off towards the Middleborough, and then you head north on Meadow towards Holmes. And they're redoing the bog there.
Right.
And there was a 40-foot trailer full of sand dumping it. So there are, that does happen. They do move huge amounts of sand from one place to another.
Yeah, they need a lot too for replenishment.
To redo, well, this is, I think, a complete
This is
redo.
Yeah, they stripped that whole thing out.
Yeah, there's a
Is
lot
that
of
what they're
bogs
doing?
being stripped. at
I
Carver.
noticed that. Same in Middleborough too, so yeah, the whole area.
Yeah,
Okay.
there are an awful lot being,
They're doing the same down there on 58 there.
the Haniel bog's
Yeah.
across
Yeah.
from,
Daniel was redoing that one, yeah.
right by Barkey.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
All right, I'll shoot them an email and try and get them in as quick as they can make it.
Okay. 213 Meadow, no, what's the other one, Meadow? The
187?
187.
Right. All right, on that one, there's a dust up right now. DEP's not pleased with the property owner. They feel they were misled. So I'm talking to DEP to coordinate, like, I don't know if they want to do some type of enforcement thing or an after the fact NOI. I got to get some guidance from them because right now they're the lead dog on this. Because last spring I put a cease and desist on them. DEP told me to stand down, it's agricultural. I need DEP to lift my stand down order so we can move forward and do something. And in that, I heard that DEP said that they'll back us. But I got to get them to say we can do something.
This is a piece of property, Curtis, I don't know if you were on the board yet when we went out and looked at it. They tried to shoehorn a house into a little corner next to, at the time, a semi-active bog. I know you were here.
Right.
And we asked them to come back with plans showing a 65 and 100-foot buffer. And they made the 65 and 100-foot buffer from the corners of the house instead of from the wetlands.
They moved the buffer zone then.
No, they made a buffer zone from the house,
From the
not
house.
from the wetlands. And
So what?
And they came back 3 or 4 times and
I thought they
rearranged
dropped it.
it.
I didn't, but they're still.
well, drive by it and see what they've done. They've filled in almost all of the irrigation ditches. They have banked the sides of it so that it's a maybe a 10-degree embankment going down, and they've
Yeah.
cleared everything in the middle.
What's the address of this one again? What was the address of this one?
183 Meadow.
You know the 213 that came in for the COC today?
Yeah.
It's you can almost see, if it wasn't for the corner, you can see the properties from each other, same
You know,
side of the road.
The two new houses that are identical
Yep.
on Meadow,
Yep.
Yeah,
it's just north of that.
Just there, yeah.
you can't
So
miss it.
it was that inactive bog for years, and they
Yes.
just, the one they just.
Yeah, there's
I think
a house
when I drove
behind
by
it.
the
They've
farm
got
stand
a
there,
twin
I saw
driveway.
that.
That's,
Yeah.
that's it.
So all the activity they're doing on now, they're saying it's bog activity?
Well, no, they evidently, they had said they were doing one thing and done another. So,
So what are they saying that they're doing bog activity, or?
well, we don't know because we've been asked to stand down by the DEP, but we need to be able to get back into the game.
Okay.
So we need the DEP to tell us that we can,
Okay.
What did he tell DEP was doing?
That they were gonna restore. It was a bog restoration.
Okay.
So why did they ask us to stand down? What?
because at the time it was a bog restoration.
Oh, you're
Well,
right.
I can see DE's point. I mean, we knew what was going on. DEP's not privy to all the stuff we went through with all the, the buffers off of the property court, the house proposed and all that. So anyway, they said we're gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. So fine. Well, they found out, they got burned, so, in a sense. So now DEP's not happy, so they don't want to interfere with our operation, which, but I need them to help us because they told me to stand down when I put the cease and desist on.
Oh, I see.
Right, I mean, we can't do anything now because the property owner's gonna say, well, you've been told to stand down
Right.
by the DEP, so we don't have to pay attention to anything you say. So for us to get back in the game, we have to be given
Right, because he's just gonna say,
free pass.
have fun, even the property owner. Yeah.
I got you.
So his first move was to go to DEP when you gave him the,
They circumvented us. He said, you have no business in agriculture. So he goes, it's the federal, this is the property owner, it's the federal government and the state. The town has no business on my business. And you should have seen the lines when I was out there, when I put the cease and desist he threw at me. I wrote it all down. I'm not gonna repeat it on camera, but it was some doozies, let me tell you.
Okay,
All right.
all right, has everyone read the minutes?
I have.
All right, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes, either as is or with any corrections.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Curtis made the motion, Carl made the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved 5-0. Any other topics by anybody not anticipated? All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Do we want to set meetings?
Well, it's
We're back
Is
on
it always the same?
regular.
We're back in the same
first and
schedule?
third, yes.
Yes, yeah, we're back to regular, unless I find out we have nothing for one of the meetings, I'll let you know and maybe we'll call it off.
Right, so it's January
I've got
17th.
it, right, I've got January, 17th, I've got an ANRAD right now, so we have one thing.
Okay,
But we have to hear it, so.
okay. Yeah, it'll be January 17th and then, I guess, February 1st?
No,
Yeah,
be the sixth.
6th?
The 7th is Wednesday.
Oh, seventh, I'm
Yep,
sorry, yeah.
and then the 21st.
Okay.
Okay,
So that'll give us a 3-week between this January 17th and the first February one.
okay. All right. Okay,
That being said, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
all right.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we're out. Thank you, Area 58.